So we're back for part 2 of our 7-day mental diet mini course. Again, I'm making these videos, and I'll put the playlist link below in the description. I'm making these videos about MF Fox's 7-day mental diet because it's one of the most effective tools that I know of to quickly shift your thinking and feelings about yourself and about a subject that might be bothering you. And so, let's just dive right in. Again, we're exploring the text. I'm hoping this series will just make you, appreciate, the 7-day mental diet a little bit more and give you a little bit more of a different perspective on how you can use it. Maybe reveal to you a nuance or two if you already are familiar with it. So Fox says that basically, the conditions of your life are shaped entirely by your thoughts and feelings. And the thoughts and feelings that you choose to entertain are going to shape your future, right? He continues on in the 7-day mental diet to say, in other words, you choose your life. That is to say, you choose all the conditions of your life when you choose the thoughts upon which you allow your mind to dwell. What's interesting is that usage of the word choose. And this is what Fox is kind of trying to drill home here, is that we have much more control over the direction of our thoughts. You could argue we have total control. You could also argue we don't have total control over the direction of our conscious thoughts. I don't want to argue about it. I think that there's this pragmatic, obvious point that we have at least a large degree of control over the direction our thinking takes. And that is what this diet is really going to bring home for you if you don't believe that, or if you don't feel like you have as much control as you want. This diet is going to make you realize and utilize the control that you have over your habitual thinking. Fox says, thought is the real causative force in life, and there is no other. Again, you could debate that. That's certainly not something that's you have to believe is true. But on a practical level, thought is obviously a causative force in life. I think we can all agree on that who are watching this video. Fox says, you cannot have one kind of mind in another kind of environment. This means that you cannot change your environment while leaving your mind unchanged, nor, and this is the supreme key to life and the reason for this pamphlet, can you change your mind without your environment changing too. So your thinking and your environment are connected. Once more, and I'm going to stop saying this, we could argue the merits of this on like this absolute level, but on a practical level, I think we all pretty much can agree with that statement. You change your mind, and your environment changes as well. Things shift. Our mind and our environment are connected in such a way. Fox says, this then is the real key to life. If you change your mind, your conditions must change too. If you change your mind, your conditions must change too. Again, this is Fox in a very refined way, basically expressing so many of the underlying principles of the law of attraction, law of assumption, manifesting ideas, whatever you want to call it. If you change your mind, your conditions must change too. Your body must change. Your daily work or other activities must change. Your home must change. The color tone of your whole life must change. For whether you be habitually happy and cheerful or low-spirited and fearful depends entirely on the quality of the mental food upon which you diet yourself. So this is him really getting to the crux of this 7-day mental diet. He says, please be very clear about this. If you change your mind, your conditions must change too. We are transformed by the renewing of our minds. So now you will see that your mental diet is really the most important thing in your whole life. This may be called the great cosmic law, and its truth is seen to be perfectly obvious when once it is clearly stated in this way. In fact, I do not know of any thoughtful person who denies its essential truth. The practical difficulty in applying it, however, arises from the fact that our thoughts are so close to us that it is difficult, without a little practice, to stand back, as it were, and to look at them objectively. Okay, this is a freaking brilliant paragraph. This is what so much of these ideas, again, comes back to. And one reason that, on this YouTube channel, a lot of times I kind of say, like, we can have all this highfalutin theory that we hear about manifesting and, reality. But for me, at least, the main point of this stuff is to practically apply it. And it's one thing, and it does seem like common sense, I think, for a lot of us that, our minds, our thoughts create basically our reality on this very practical level, right? And, Fox says, I don't know of any thoughtful person who denies this essential truth. What you think and feel throughout the day is obviously going to shape your life, right? That seems like common sense. But what Fox points out so brilliantly, better than most New Thought teachers, in my opinion, is the practical difficulty in applying this and realizing it in your daily life. It's one thing to say it. It's one thing to theorize about it. But to consistently, habitually work on changing how you think and feel so you think and feel more positive. It's a practice. And it's a practice that you start to feel more comfortable with the longer you do it. And you feel more gratified doing it the longer you do it a lot of the time. And that's the point of this 7-day mental diet, is to start becoming, more comfortable working with your thoughts and feelings. There's many points to this, but that's a main point. This is what I've noticed. I think, I've done the mental diet, I think like 5 times. This is what I've really noticed, is that Fox says here, our thoughts are so close to us that it's difficult without a little practice to stand back, as it were, and look at them objectively. This really resonates for me. When you go on this mental diet, I'm pretty sure that you will realize, I think a lot of people realize how reactive they are to their thinking. And when you go on this mental diet, that reactivity, it's like there's a little gap where you force yourself not to be quite as reactive to your thinking for a week. And that little gap, the ability to step back just a little bit, makes a huge difference in your life and can really change your life going forward. Now, creating that little gap for a week is not always easy and fun, as Fox is going to explain more, but that little gap, being able to be less reactive, realizing it's okay to be less reactive, and that your world's not going to fall apart by you being less reactive, and that your world actually might be better by you not being so reactive. That's a big thing that you will realize on this diet, that I've certainly realized. I gave that example before. Probably my favorite story of me personally doing these mental diets was just my behavior towards my daughter when she was young, like 2 years old. My reactivity towards a 2-year-old really became more minimized on the diet, and then it just stayed that way. And in general, like my response to people, I think, how I respond, how reactive I am, there's been more of a gap, a distance in my life created by doing these 7-day mental diets, several times. And seemingly it's deepened each time I do it, where there's more of the ability for me to take a step back like that, really quickly take a step back mentally in my mind. So I'm not as reactive as I was before, which is reason enough to do this mental diet, I would say, if you've never done it. Fox says, again, the practical difficulty is in applying this, taking that step back. Our thoughts are so close to us that it's difficult without a little practice to stand back, as it were, and to look at them objectively, to look at our thoughts objectively. He says, yet this is just what you must learn to do. You must train yourself to choose the subject of your thinking at any given time, and also to choose the emotional tone, or what we call the mood that colors it. Yes, you can choose your moods. Indeed, if you could not, you would have no real control over your life at all. Moods habitually entertained produce the characteristic disposition of the person concerned. It is his disposition that finally makes or mars a person's happiness. Now, that's quite a claim that Fox makes there. Again, like I said, we could argue this. We're not going to argue it here. On a practical level, I think everybody watching this video can appreciate this, which is that you have a choice over your emotional tone, in the direction that your thinking takes. And we don't value how much of a choice we have over this. But we have more control. You can say we have complete control, but in the very least, we have more control over our emotional tone and the direction that our thinking takes than we usually give ourselves credit for. And, this sounds a lot like Neville. Moods habitually entertained produce the characteristic disposition of the person concerned. So what are we entertaining? What moods and thinking patterns are we entertaining habitually, constantly? Again, this isn't about something you occasionally think, or a passing crazy thought, or a passing bout of ecstasy. It's not about these passing things. This is much more about the habitual mood you find yourself in. That's your general diet. That's your day-to-day mental diet. Moods habitually entertained produce the characteristic disposition of the person concerned, and it is his disposition that finally makes or mars a person's happiness. You cannot be healthy, you cannot be happy, you cannot be prosperous if you have a bad disposition. If you are sulky or surly or cynical or depressed or superior or frightened half out of your wits, your life cannot possibly be worth living. Unless you are determined to cultivate a good disposition, you may as well give up all hope of getting anything worthwhile out of life, and it is kinder to tell you very plainly that this is the case. So that's some tough love from Fox. Some tough love. You don't have to totally agree with it, but his practical point of if you don't feel good and you're not willing to work with yourself to feel better, what are you doing? His practical point, I think we can all appreciate. So that's enough for today. There's a lot to chew on there. This is the second video. I suggest you watch the first one if you haven't watched it, and we'll continue with part 3, where we'll get probably a little bit more into specifics about how to do this mental diet. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you have questions, if you would like coaching and counseling on this topic or on related topics about spirituality and manifesting, reach me at radicalcounselor.com. Until next time.